Many people think of the Midwest as a bucolic sort of landscape filled with farms and super nice people. And the area does have those things, but it's also home to some of the most dangerous cities in the United States. In this list, we're going over the 10 most dangerous cities in the region based on the violent crime rates, and you should really stick around until the end because there might be a few surprises that you won't be expecting. Indianapolis is the most populous city in the state of Indiana, so it stands to reason that it would also be the most dangerous area. With a population of 876,384, Indy comprises about 13% of the state's population. Their overall crime rate is 117% higher than the national average, and their violent crime rate is 235% higher. In the last year on file, they had 162 homicides, in addition to 11,008 other violent crimes, and 36,237 property crimes. There is a 1 in 19 chance of becoming a victim of a crime, and Indianapolis is safer than only 2% of US cities. Indy isn't totally without merit though. If you're a nerd like I am and enjoy history, this is a good place to take a day trip because they have several museums, and they have the second largest collection of monuments for veterans and casualties in the country. I just wouldn't wander around after the sun goes down. Milwaukee is known for its presence in the beer manufacturing industry, as well as for sitcoms Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days. However, these days Milwaukee is not such a happy place. Their population is 590,157, but they had 7,874 violent crimes, including 97 murders and 15,097 property crimes. That places their violent crime rate at 251% above the national average, and their overall crime is 56% above the national average. There is a 1 in 26 chance of becoming a victim of a crime, and Milwaukee is safer than 5% of US cities. As with most places, there are usually a few nice things about the city that can bring in tourists. They have breweries all over the place, and there is a Harley-Davidson museum for motorcycle enthusiasts. With its crime stats, I'm a bit perplexed as to why former mayor and current Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg loves South Bend so much. This city makes Gary, Indiana look good in comparison. The violent crime rate is 251% higher than the national average. They have 102,000 people, but they had 1,357 violent crimes and 4,296 property crimes. The overall crime rate is 123% higher than the national average. The chance of being a victim of a crime is 1 in 19, and it's safer than only 2% of US cities, and that's after the crime decreased by 4% from the previous year. Now for the positives. The University of Notre Dame is in this area, and South Bend has recently been investing in tech and healthcare jobs, so there are opportunities to attract new residents or keep the students there after graduation if they can overlook the crime. Kansas City is the largest city in Missouri with a population of 495,327. As such, it would be expected to have more crime, but the per capita rate is considerably higher than the national average. For the last year on file, there were 7,099 violent crimes, including 150 homicides. That makes the violent crime rate 277% higher than the national average. There were also 19,124 property crimes, so that is 112% above the national average. This is after a 10% decrease in crime from the previous year, so Kansas City is now safer than 3% of US cities, and the chance of being a victim of a crime is 1 in 19. If you're brave enough to visit the city, they have a thriving jazz and blues scene for the audiophiles, and of course they have their famous barbecue for the foodies. 381,009 people call Cleveland home, which is just a little over one-third of the population size from 100 years ago. During the 1920s, the population swelled to over 900,000. Thanks to Prohibition, Cleveland saw a rise in organized crime and speakeasies. That tradition of high crime continues today. The violent crime rate is 300% higher than the national average due to the 5,791 violent crimes that were reported in the last FBI statistics. They also had 17,057 property crimes, so the chance of being a victim of a crime is 1 in 17, and Cleveland is safer than only 2% of US cities. Even with the crime, though, there are still reasons to visit the city. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is located in Cleveland, and they also have a variety of ethnic festivals throughout the year. This is Brad Pitt's hometown, and it seems like he made the right decision when he left the area. I once drove to Springfield, Missouri to see a concert, and it didn't seem so bad, so the crime stats for the city were a bit surprising to me. They have 167,882 residents, but there were 2,571 violent crimes and 13,188 property crimes. That puts their violent crime rate at 300% above the national average, and their property crime at 274% higher than the national rate. There is a 1 in 11 chance of becoming a victim of a crime, and Springfield is safer than 0% of U.S. cities. So for its size, Springfield is one of the most dangerous places in the country, and the crime keeps going up. It increased by 12% from the last year. Aside from the giant Bass Pro Shop that they have there aren't that many reasons to visit Springfield. Other areas have the same sort of offerings, with just a fraction of the crime. Most people think that Chicago is the most dangerous city in Illinois, but it's actually the small city of Danville. Only a little more than 30,000 people are brave enough to live there. Their violent crime rate is 361% higher than the national rate due to the 536 violent crimes, including 7 murders that they had on the last FBI report. They also had 1,370 property crimes. The chance of being a victim is 1 in 17, and Danville is safer than only 2% of U.S. cities. Those stats are actually an improvement, believe it or not. The crime decreased by 6% from the previous year. Since this is a smaller community, there isn't much in the way of tourist attractions. They have a museum dedicated to the various entertainers who have lived there, including Dick Van Dyke and Gene Hackman. They also have the Danville Symphony Orchestra and an opera house, but you can find that same sort of entertainment in bigger, safer cities. St. Louis has a population of 300,576, so it is the second largest city in the state of Missouri, but the per capita crime rate makes it the most dangerous city in the state. Violent crimes are 408% above the national average. They had 5,792 violent crimes, including 194 murders. They also had 18,582 property crimes, so their overall crime rate is 226% above that of the national rate. St. Louis is safer than only 1% of U.S. cities, and the chance of being the victim of a crime is 1 in 13. This one makes me sad because St. Louis is the closest major city from where I live. It's about a 2-hour drive, so I take the occasional road trip there when I want entertainment. They have quite a few free and low-cost places to take a family. The zoo is free, as are the museums that are located in close proximity to the zoo. They also have City Museum, which is less a museum and more an indoor playground. It's a really cool place that's constantly changing, so you never know what you'll find. I would just recommend that if you go, make sure not to wander too far off, because it's easy to end up in some of the sketchy neighborhoods. I don't think it comes as a surprise that Detroit has made this list. People have been talking about the crime in the city for years. Detroit is the largest city in Michigan and the second largest in the Midwest after Chicago. They have a population of 670,000, so some crime would be expected, but 13,040 violent crimes is a bit much. That includes 275 murders. The violent crime rate is 418% higher than the national average. They also had 28,550 property crimes, so the overall crime rate is 152% above the national average. Detroit is safer than only 2% of U.S. cities, and the chance of becoming a victim of a crime is 1 in 16. Despite those stats, the New York Times ranked Detroit number 9 on its 2017 list of 52 places to go. This city has contributed significantly to American music from the days of Motown to Eminem, the White Stripes, and a ton of other artists. They still have a thriving music scene, as well as museums, sporting events, and a variety of other entertainment options. The Midwestern community with the highest violent crime rate that I could find was a town of 10,736 people that I had never heard of before. Muskegon Heights reported 5 homicides and 227 other violent crimes, which for a town this small is a bit crazy. That makes their violent crime rate 471% above the national average. They also had 544 property crimes reported, so the overall crime rate is 191% higher than the national average. There is a 1 in 14 chance of becoming a victim of a crime, and Muskegon Heights is safer than only 1% of U.S. cities. And that's after the crime decreased 11% from the previous year. I tried to find something positive about this place, and the best that I can come up with is that they appreciate irony. The town's website boasts of being, and I quote, "the city of friendly people." I'm sure they're very polite and friendly when they're victimizing you. The town is a 10-minute drive from Lake Michigan, so some might consider that a positive, but there are plenty of other communities on the lake where you won't fear for your life. Do you know of any other small towns like this that have an insanely high crime rate? Leave a comment below if you do. Maybe I could do a video on small towns that should be avoided or something like that. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I remain stuck in the cornfield.